following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to Common Sense Living, the stepping stone to success. Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. Think of Walt Disney. He didn't quit. That's common sense. Like Abraham Lincoln, turn your negatives into positives and your chaos into order. Patience, persistence, perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Welcome to Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense.
Welcome one more time to another edition of Common Sense Living. This is your host, Jose Luna. And today we have a special program because we're going to talk about the holidays. You know, the Christmas season, the glittering, the lightning, the Christmas trees, the exchanging of gifts and all of that. And that is really, really exciting. And I'm telling you, when I'm telling you about Christmas, Christmas is all over the world. And we need to really take a look into, you know, the different views of people about Christmas. And in reality, I'm telling you, there are some ideas out there that are quite interesting, quite fascinating, and I want to share them with you. So I want to start with how people celebrate Christmas in various countries. And I'm just going to take a few examples, like for example, in Australia. In Australia, Christmas time, I don't know, but they have never seen snow in Christmas. It's between 80 and 90 degrees. Everybody's surfing, everybody's in the beach, there's a lot of sun. Sometimes they have had hail, sometimes they have had storms and tornadoes, but snow, never. So Australia misses a white Christmas. And that is, in a way, you know, unfortunate, but they have a great Christmas because that's the time when the kids leave school. So everybody's waiting for the results of, you know, the final results to see where they're going for the next semester, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's fascinating to see that. So if you go to Sweden, for example, excuse me, not in Sweden, in India, the Christmas tree is made out of, in reality, they bring mango trees inside the house, and they decorate it with mango leaves. And I would love to have a Christmas tree that is all mangoes. That's my favorite fruit. But that's what they do in India. And in Mexico, for example, they do what is called posadas. And the posadas, I participated of those a lot while I was in Mexico. You know, a group of people, we come with our guitars and, you know, everybody comes singing from house to house, and we drink chocolate, ginger tea, and cookies and all the stuff. And we go from house to house the whole night on Christmas Eve. And it's great. It's a great time. We go and wake up the people singing and knocking on the door. Hey, we have posadas for you. So, and then the members of that family join the group, and then we go to the next family, and we go all over the town. It's a really great thing to do, and it's a great tradition. Also, in Denmark, they have something fascinating. Those who like to eat the sweet and the pudding and all that, what they do, they create this special pudding, and they give it around, but every pudding, they do like this type of contest, where one of the puddings have an almond, and whoever finds the almond is the one who gets the luckiness, which means that everybody gets, this person gets the blessing in a way. You know, that's what they believe is going to be really blessed because this person got the almond. So if you like to do that tradition, I think it's a nice one. It's a great thing to really look at Christmas. I want to tell you also, Christmas trees, the introduction of Christmas trees did not begin until the 16th century. By the way, you know, people today everybody wants to be politically correct. Politically correct in the sense that, you know, some people get offended if you say Merry Christmas. Others get offended if you say Happy Holidays. And you don't know exactly which way to go. And I just want to share with you that this is not new. In New England, in New Hampshire, you know, the Puritans banned Christmas all over New England. It was forbidden by the Puritans, by the law of the moment. You know, they didn't want Christmas tree, they didn't want Christmas celebration, and it was banned. So people were not allowed to have Christmas celebration because it was considered pagan. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, about the concept of paganism and Christmas and all of that. Also, the very first church that ever had a Christmas tree in the United States was a little church, Congregational Church in Akron, Ohio. The pastor decided to put a Christmas tree in church, and once he put the Christmas tree, he started putting, you know, the balls and adorning the things and the things that they usually do, and the members got overly excited. I mean, when I mean excited, not in the positive way, but in a negative way. They began to criticize the poor pastor. You know, the pastor had to do damage control, but he didn't change his stance. He stood his grounds, and eventually the whole thing died out. And that's how churches began to introduce Christmas trees in you know, on the stage and the platform for the people to come and bring their gifts for the poor and yada, yada, yada. So the whole thing began to get a different flavor. The Roman Catholic Church has been pretty much, you know, in favor of embracing Christmas and using Christmas to promote the birth of Christ. You know, the Protestant from the 16th century, 16th century, you know, the Protestant movement, they did not embrace that much. That came later on, and when it came later on, it has been growing by leaps as we speak. So today, most Protestant churches, most of them, do celebrate Christmas, and they have a Christmas tree on their platform up there up the front. I want to share with you this also about our 14th president, Franklin Pierce. Franklin Pierce, a fascinating, eloquent guy who was born in Hillsboro, not too far from where I live. And, you know, Franklin Pierce, he won the Democratic nomination at that time and ran for president, won as a president, you know, won the presidency. And he was the first president who began the tradition of having a Christmas tree in the White House. It's fascinating, you know, and I perfectly can understand that, because the poor guy, his wife was always sick. All his children died young. Even when he was going to get the inauguration for his presidency, one of his youngest son was killed in a train accident, and it was devastating. So he had to go through all of that. So Christmas, going and lighting up the Christmas for him was a way of comforting himself, of you know, how to deal with the issues that he had in his family. That's my belief. You don't have to agree with me, and that's okay. We don't have to agree. I'm just sharing with you some ideas of how people celebrate Christmas or celebrated Christmas in other periods of time. Also, I just want to now talk for a moment about Christmas and paganism. And this is a very touchy, very touchy issue, because many Christians are divided between these ideas. well, having a Christmas tree, and they quote Jeremiah chapter 10, and they take Jeremiah chapter 10 out of context, and they say, oh, you cannot have a Christmas tree because this is pagan, and this is not right, and you are not honoring God. Then, on the other hand, you have also the other group of people that says, hey, wait a minute, we are just want to spend time with our family, exchange our gifts, which, by the way, the exchanging of gifts, this is the commercial in between, the exchanging of gifts did not begin until 1851, when the Queen of England decided to give a photo of herself when she was 7 years old to the prince who was to her husband, and he gave her also a special gift. That's how the whole thing began. Before that, people did not exchange gifts at all. So, you find this, but you find these two opposite views about Christmas, where people are fighting whether should they have a Christmas tree or not. Should I allow my kids to celebrate it? Should we get together as a family? Should we have a meal together and perhaps pray together? What about the commercial aspect of it, where people are just going crazy, buying and buying and buying stuff that they don't need? And, while there are a lot of people out there with so many needs, are we willing to share with those? All of that comes into play when the discussion takes place. But the bottom line here, what I'm trying to basically convey to you is, there is a major discussion that has been going on with the issue of Christmas. And this is what I'm going to say. Look, it is true. Christmas has a pagan origin. It's true. No one is going to deny that. This record, this history. So what are we going to do about it? So because Christmas has a pagan origin, that means that I'm pagan if I do something like keeping myself together with my family and, spending some time together when we are not able to see each other perhaps throughout the whole year or maybe in years. And it's the only time when everybody comes together to the table and have a meal together and share together family memories and all that. I don't like to be a person that would judge or condemn anyone based on what you do. No one knows the circumstances. So when people started criticizing the president, Franklin Pierce, because he was the first person who introduced the idea of a Christmas tree in the White House, he had his critics as well. But no one understood what he was going through. He was going through a lot of pain himself. This is my personal opinion. Again, you don't have to agree with me. But I'm just simply saying what I see behind the whole scenario. And, the paganism aspect, the origin of Christmas as a pagan celebration is true. It's true that Jesus was not born on the 25th of December. In reality, what happened is that on the 25th of December, the history tells us Semiramis, who was the queen in Babylon, or Neo-Babylon, she had a baby, named the baby Tammuz. Tammuz was born on December 25th, with the solstice and winter solstice. And the whole celebration, as Thomas Aquinas, the Christian father from, the early centuries, began to try to introduce and Christianize many of the pagan celebrations. He succeeded, and one of them was this idea of Christmas. But it was not taken, it was not totally embraced by Christendom at once. And so Christ was not born on December 25th. So I don't want you to be scandalized about it. We are not celebrating the birthday of Jesus Christ, even though tradition says it was Jesus Christ who was born on December 25th. That is not true. No one knows the day that Jesus was born. So several facts to to attest to this. Number one, the Bible, Matthew chapter 2 says that, you know, the shepherds were out there in the fields, and the angels appeared to the shepherds. Shepherds are not out there in Christmas, in December. It is impossible for that to happen. You know, that cannot be. Number two, they were in a census. The census were never called during the winter time. It was always between spring and summer, you know, at the end of the spring, the beginning of the summer. So there's a census. That's why Joseph had to go to his native town in Bethlehem. So, and that's why Jesus was born in Bethlehem, even though he grew up in Nazareth. So also we find, you know, we see in the scenes, which I have participated in many of the scenes when I was a kid, you know, as the scenes of the wise men bringing their gifts to the manger. The wise men never came to the manger to start with. I mean, it is impossible. Why? Because when the Bible says, you know, this is the account that we have. It's the only account about the birth of Jesus Christ that we have. And even those that do not believe in the Bible and celebrate Christmas, you know, in a way, by celebrating Christmas, they are agreeing with the biblical account, whether they are aware of this or not. And then you find this scenario. They counted the time. You know, the Bible says that Herod calculated the time and ordered to kill the babies, of all the babies in Bethlehem, 2 years in 2 years down. In other words, from 0 to 2 years, all the babies were killed. And why Herod decided to kill the babies 2 years down is because of the timing that he got from the wise men from the east. The timing, you know, taking into account the idea that in the Jewish economy, the time of, or the age of a person begins at the moment of conception. That means that when your mom or my mom got, you know, we were conceived at the moment of conception, when she became pregnant, that's when life began. And in the Jewish economy, that's the time when you were born. So when your mom and my mom deliver me, for example, you know, at 42 weeks, you know, 9 months later, in the Jewish economy, I am already 1 year old, even though I am only 9 months. So by issuing a decree to kill all the babies 2 years and under, what Herod is making sure that all the babies, no matter what their age, if the wise men were traveling 2 or 3 months throughout the wilderness, crossing the wilderness, the desert, right? And just by the time that they got based on the stars, and the Bible specifically says that the wise men came into the house, not into the manger, which means they were not in Bethlehem, they were already in Nazareth, in the house. So they were already set up in their house, in their home. So they have already, in a way, you know, it has been a quite considerable amount of time. So in order to give himself some leeway, Herod said, 2 years under, all the babies killed them. Why? Because 9 months of being born, maybe the baby has been born, they were traveling for 2 or 3 months, maybe, you know, whatever. So to make sure, he killed all the babies 2 years and under. So that's why it is impossible to say that Jesus was born on December 25th. That's something in reality that comes from the Babylonian, Neo-Babylonian market or religious market, and it was Christianized by the Christian church, trying to embrace the pagans that converted into Christianity and trying to make Christianity more palatable for the pagans who had certain traditions, that they celebrated during the winter solstice. So, this is to say that we are not against Christmas celebration. We are not advocating for mercantilism. We are not advocating for people just lavishly expending money that they don't have. We are not advocating for any of that. What we are doing here is simply saying, hey, look, the reality of the fact is that we don't have any scriptural basis to say Christ was born December 25th. We are not here to condemn anyone because you celebrate Christmas. If you have this time to get together with your family, to help the poor, to be out there and have this cheerful time in the midst of all the troubles and commotions and turmoils that is going on around all the time, and all this racing that we always have, running to here, running to there, and all the stress building up, and you have that time of solace where you can, just come together with your family and have a moment of reflection about what happened 2,000 years ago, even though historically it's incorrect. What's the big deal about it? I mean, there are a lot of things that are from pagan origin, like, for example, using a pulpit in a church. The podium, the pulpit, has a pagan origin. The use of a tie has a pagan origin. So if I'm going to go by everything that has a pagan origin, I won't be able to wear or use anything. So we have to be more balanced in our approach. We have to become more open up and not to have a condemnatory view on people who might think different to us. And if they think different, that's not an issue of salvation. So what? Christians who are out there in a very strong stance, this is pagan, and make the lives of their relatives miserable when they want to connect with you. Hey, lighten up, man. Go and take the time and spend time with that family that you don't get along with, and try to bridge the gap, and try to make amends. Try to have a conciliatory tone. Try to be an oil on troubled waters. Life is too short for us to be fighting about this stuff. You know what I mean? Life continues. We are not here for too long, and it's a time for us to really, 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 and truly, focus in what is important. Loving God above all things and loving one another. At the end of the day, that's what it matters. And by the way, the last thing I want to share with you is about the meaning, the Christian meaning of Christmas. Christ wasn't born on December 25th. So why do you guys do a Christmas program? Somebody might ask. Well, we do a Christmas program because, you know what? It's the only time that a lot of people that are not Christians, that are totally anti-spiritual. Notice that I didn't say anti-religious. I said anti-spiritual. Are willing or are open to the possibility of being more mellow, more loving, more showing more fraternal love, And I think this is a great opportunity for us to reach out to people. Instead of just secluding ourselves in a corner and saying, this is Christmas, it's pagan, we have to lighten up. We have to really come to terms with the idea that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. We don't have to be partakers of the things of the world. See, if we take some things in the way that some people take it today, they would crucify Jesus because Jesus ate with publicans and sinners. You see, Jesus was in every party that was in town. He went to the Hanukkah of today. You know, the Feast of the Dedication in John chapter 5 is the Hanukkah, which is in India, is the Festival of Light. It's celebrated in September. So, you find that, and Jesus is up there, but Jesus goes to the party, to the festival, and instead of being there celebrating the festival with people the way they celebrate it, the Bible specifically says that he went to look for those who were lame, those who were sick, those who were outcast. And he just spent time with them. And he went and healed a man that had not been able to walk for 38 years. You see? So we find Jesus also celebrating the Passover, that was a Jewish celebration. And you know, by the way, the Hanukkah itself, the celebration of the Festival of Light, began around between the 3rd and 2nd century BC. It's not in the Levitical law, so it was not per se a religious celebration. It came because of the celebration of the Maccabeans' victory over, you know, something that happened back in between the 3rd and 2nd century. So, and some people might say today, if they were very Pharisees like they were at that time, they say, Jesus, he celebrated something pagan. Well, he did. But he also celebrated all the festivals of the Bible. And how he did it, that's what matters. And we who are Christians, we need to lighten up and start taking the example of Jesus Christ, one who mingled with people, one who cared for people, one who would not judge and condemn anybody, no matter what path they have in life. Anyway, but we have to wrap this up, and I want to invite you to use the Christmas spirit of Jesus Christ, which is loving God above all things and loving one another. This is your host, Jose Luna. See you next time in your program, Common Sense Living.
Welcome to Common Sense Living, the stepping stone to success. Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense. Think of Walt Disney. He didn't quit. That's common sense. Like Abraham Lincoln, turn your negatives into positives and your chaos into order. Patience, persistence, perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Welcome to Common Sense Living, where common sense makes perfect sense.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.